So the busy holiday season is coming to an end. Last week I put out a Christmas special giving you 7 winter fantasy recommendations, something that I plan on making a tradition on the channel. And now as the end of the year is upon us, I figure it's time to talk about 15 of my favorite books that I read in 2020. If you're looking for some recommendations to bring in the new year, all of these books I would recommend. They were some of my favorites and I will have them all linked down in the description. I actually read more books this year than I thought. Not only was 2020 disastrous for everyone, for obvious reasons, but also personally, I just had a lot going on in my life. I've mentioned how I had to take care of my mom for quite a while. There was a lot of stuff, but I read more than I thought I did. But anyway, in no particular order, these are the books. I might as well start with Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, the 4th book in the Stormlight Archive. I actually haven't finished this one yet. I'm just getting to the end. I'll probably have it finished by the time this video is up, but I've been going really slow with this one. I've been taking my time to really enjoy it and to piece together different Cosmere connections and take notes for future theory and lore videos, but I have really been enjoying it. You probably know the Stormlight Archive is like my favorite series. It isn't a perfect series. It does have its pacing issues, but overall it's the series that I'm always the most excited for, and Rhythm of War is no exception. It has some incredible scenes in it. I can't quite say if it's my favorite book in the series yet. I don't think so, but I've still been enjoying every page of it, though I do think it could have been cut down in some areas. But yeah, I do want to have a review up for this one pretty soon in the new year, so you can look out for that. Next is Dawnshard, the 2nd Stormlight novella. I did read this one before starting Rhythm of War, and I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I did Edge Dancer. Edge Dancer I did enjoy. I can see why some people didn't like it because Lift is not a character for everyone. Where Edge Dancer was not entirely essential to the main series, I do feel like Dawnshard is. It has some big significant events that I think are going to be very important for the series, and I loved it. I did receive an ebook for this as part of the Kickstarter for The Way of Kings Leatherbounds, but I haven't received my Leatherbounds yet. I think maybe a lot of Canadians haven't received theirs yet. I hope I'm not the only one. I hope it arrives soon because I do want to do an unboxing and a review of the Leatherbounds. I did receive my Bridge 4 poster, however, which is beautiful, and I need to get a frame for it. The Blade itself and Before They Are Hanged, the first 2 books in the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I'm currently reading the 3rd book, and I love this trilogy. Joe Abercrombie, right after I finished the 1st book, I put him up there in my top 5 favorite authors. And then by the time I was on the 2nd book, he's cemented in place there. He's got some of the best characters that I've read. I love the inner monologues and the thoughts of some of the characters, specifically Glokta, who at first, I was not expecting to become my favorite character. Giselle is a great character as well, and Logan Ninefingers, he's also one of my favorites. The characters just felt so flawed and real, and they're my favorites. I was not expecting so much humor in this book. I was kind of expecting a gloomy, depressing, grimdark series, but I was taken by surprise. And it's now a favorite series of mine, and I can't wait to read more Abercrombie in 2021. The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This book was really good. There's a 200-year war going on, and 1 in every 2,000 women have the power to call down dragons, and 1 in every 100 men can turn themselves into an Ingon Yama, which is a powerful giant thing. We follow Tao, who wants revenge, and a lot of the story is him training to become a better fighter. Military dramas and revenge stories have been done before, but this one does it really well. I didn't love everything about it, but it does bring a lot of new things to the genre. It's incredibly fast-paced, and I can't wait to read the 2nd book, Fires of Vengeance. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I just talked about this one in my last video, so I'm not going to talk about the plot too much here, but I do have to say that it has beautiful lyrical writing, and also it just perfectly captures the winter season. If you're going to read this book any season, you should read it in the winter. The only book I can compare it to is The Bear and the Nightingale, which also perfectly captures the frozen winter. Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. I mentioned this one in my fantasy books to read in self-isolation video, but this is a new favorite series of mine. Bancroft is such a talented author. His writing really feels like you're reading a classic. This book follows Thomas Senlin, who planned out the perfect honeymoon with his wife to visit the renowned Tower of Babel. Only when he gets there, he ends up separated from his wife and he has to enter the tower in search of her. The tower is not exactly what he thought it would be. It's made up of different ringdoms, each of which have their own politics and hierarchies. He ends up being robbed and manipulated by the people of the tower, and this once boring man ends up growing a lot as a character. The writing is incredibly skilled and beautiful. I'm currently on the second book, I have the third book waiting for me, and I'll be making some videos on this series. I read a few books in the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. My favorites included Mort, The Hogfather, and Guards. There really isn't any other author like Pratchett. Not only is he amazing at humor, but he also has a lot of wisdom in his books as well. They've been such fun, lighthearted books to read, and I definitely want to read more in the series. Next is a book that I mostly read in 2019, but I happened to finish in January 2020, Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. It follows a 15-year-old who runs away from his home in Tokyo to escape a gruesome prophecy, and he finds refuge in the small town of Takamatsu, where he's taken care of by the owner of a private library. There's also Nakata, a homeless man who can speak to cats. The way that Kafka and Nakata's stories converge is just fantastic. It's got fish that rain from the sky, eloquent talking cats, beautiful prose, dreamy magical realism, and haunting unresolved mysteries. This is a book that I would say is not really for everyone. It's a very weird book. There's a lot of things that I like about it. There are some uncomfortable things I didn't like about it. For instance, there's possible incest, which I know is meant to make you feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, I don't like it. But other than that, there is a lot of things to like about it. There's a lot of philosophical questions that are asked and just a lot of deeper themes and meanings. It's very strange. I kinda love it, but there's things I don't like about it as well. The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch, just like Abercrombie, the characters are what really shine in this book. We follow a group of con artists known as the Gentlemen Bastards, led by their leader, Locke Lamora. The story picks up with the gang trying to pull off the biggest heist they've ever attempted. I really don't know what kept me from reading this book sooner. It has amazing banter between the characters, it has a multi-layered story that's both character and plot driven, and it's now one of my all-time favorites. The Wheel of Time, books 3 and 4. I did not get to as much Wheel of Time as I wanted to this year, but the books that I did read, I really enjoyed. The fourth book is probably my favorite so far, and I'm gonna be using a lot of 2021 to finishing the Wheel of Time series. Next, The Dragonebone Chair by Tad Williams, book 1 of the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. This is a new favorite of mine. I've heard about this series for years now. I've seen people talking about it, but for some reason it never really piqued my interest, and it just wasn't on the top of my radar at all. But for some reason, this year I decided to pick it up and just start reading, and I really am glad that I did. It is a new favorite of mine, and Tad Williams is an author I really want to read more of. The beginning is so wholesome and cozy. Simon is a great character. It does start off fairly slow, but I feel like this helped me get more immersed in the world. There were points where I was just wanting something to happen, but once it did pick up, it did not disappoint. It has its classic fantasy tropes, but I didn't mind. There's a lot here that makes it unique and makes it its own as well. If you don't mind some long descriptions and some beautiful sentences, then The Dragonebone Chair I would recommend. Jurassic Park. This was a book I was not expecting to read this year. My mom ended up going to the hospital, and while I was there, I checked the gift shop, and the only interesting book they had was Jurassic Park. So I picked it up and I spent the whole day reading it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I've always loved the Jurassic Park movies, but I was never really interested in reading the book, but I'm glad that I did. I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did. And it was really awesome to notice how they took some of the parts of this book and put it into the second movie. If you grew up watching Jurassic Park like I did and you haven't read the book, I'd recommend doing so because it is really good. I reread books 1 through 4 in the Deltora Quest series, one of my childhood favorites. The reason being is that in 2021, I want to start a new series of videos on the channel called Remember Reading, where each episode I'll be going over a series that people have fond childhood memories with, like the Bone comics, Ranger's Apprentice, the Redwall books, stuff like that. The Original by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Cowell. I guess this isn't really a book, it is an audio-only novella. Well, it is getting a physical physical release at some point. I did make a review for this one, and I also interviewed the narrator, Julia Whalen. This one isn't fantasy, this is actually a sci-fi, where the main character is actually a clone that was created in order to track down her original self, who's been convicted of murder and is on the run. The audio production is top-notch, it's also pretty short, and I would recommend it. So anyway, those are 15 of the best books that I read in 2020. I've been seeing people make these videos a lot. I've also been seeing a lot of the worst books in 2020 videos. I'm not gonna be making one of those. I wish that I read more horrible books, but I really didn't. Like, honestly, every single book I read this year was a good one, I'm pretty sure, so I'm not qualified to make that video. I enjoyed all the books I read. I would love to know if you've read any of the books I mentioned, what your thoughts are, and what were your favorite books you read in 2020?
Let me know in the comments. Like the video and subscribe. Just do it.
But only if you want to. Okay, I think I'm done. I think that's it. If you want to help support the channel and have your name added to the magical scroll, then consider checking out my Patreon.